We've come a long way from capacitor plague back in the 2000s, or have we?
The wacky world of MultimediaJay.
For those of you who may be younger or newer to this electronics thing, squeak! Capacitor plague was a little something in the 2000s where some industrial espionage gone wrong led to capacitors being manufactured with the wrong mix of chemicals in the dielectric compounds. So as they did their capacitor-y type things, they would generate excess gas, which would eventually give the caps a gas problem, and they would bulge and eventually burst. Hence the yellow-orange type stuff on top of some of these capacitors, unfortunately on the motherboard of the original silver bullet. So here I was back in the early 2000s, built my first computer in college, and it didn't even make it to the end of 2005 because of capacitor plague. One of the shortest lasting computers that I've ever owned. Now since then, obviously things have gotten a lot better, but new decades bring new problems with electronics, as we'll see unfortunately with lithium batteries today. So mobile devices are pretty much everywhere nowadays. They're basically what the computer companies wished computers were. They're basically pocket computers that are essentially used as appliances. The ATX standard of 1995 pretty much created the ability to build your own computer and just replace parts and stuff, which is anathema to companies that wanted to sell these things like major appliances and like dishwashers or washers and dryers or something along those lines, where you would keep coming back to the vendor or someone supplied by the vendor for repairs and maintenance. The ability to fix things yourself took a lot of the money to be made out of the whole hardware scene. So it doesn't surprise me at all that companies are doing everything they can to fight right to repair, and people having their own custom-built computers these days, or doing everything they can to manipulate the industry to make it so that custom-built gaming PCs and the like are no longer worth it. But that's another discussion altogether. Today we're going to talk about mobile devices and the critical flaw that they have, which is their lithium batteries. Depending on how you charge and discharge the lithium batteries, as well as their overall quality to begin with, and the whole 9 yards, you can end up with something similar to capacitor plague, where the charging and discharging, the chemical reactions in the battery, basically create excess gas, which causes the battery to bulge. And if you're not careful, it could eventually burst. Now, there are safety circuits that are supposed to shut down the battery, so that can't happen. But I really don't feel like having a device catch on fire or rip itself apart as the phone that contained this LG battery almost did before I find out about that. Of course, this swollen LG battery has already been discharged all the way down to zero. I made sure to run it completely out before removing it. Fortunately, the LG Phoenix phones that this battery came out of were basically, they have user replaceable batteries. So I tried a replacement, but if you look very closely, this third-party replacement from Amazon isn't completely flat anymore. After just a few charge cycles, it's already got the beginnings of a bulge. So I really don't know how long this is going to last versus the one that I took out. Now, I noticed this in this LG Phoenix 3, which is the cheapest smartphone that I have. I don't use smartphones or tablets for anything important. Not by a long shot. That's what real computers are for. I haven't bought into this marketing that has people buying $1,000 smartphones and insurance policies and taking them back to the store to get repaired if they break the screen and all that other crap. I recognize that mobile devices are very useful, but they can also be quite a money sink, not unlike gaming PCs in our day and age. But I first noticed this in this LG Phoenix 3, which I don't use for anything. It's the worst It's the worst phone that I have, and I bought it specifically to use as an alarm clock, because it was about the cost of an alarm clock. Back when I bought it, it was down to like $30 on clearance. So I picked it up, and I believe in using computer devices as alarm clocks, because regular alarm clocks have just gotten crappy in the past several decades. I had various instances where the buzzer would break or something like that, or it would malfunction and I'd sleep through my alarm because it wouldn't go off and I'd be late for work. One time I even got an attendance warning for not calling in within a certain amount of my shift because I slept through my alarm. So, for many years I used a Nintendo DS as an alarm clock. And then I decided to retire the Nintendo DS and start using a crappy smartphone when I found some ringtones. I just leave the speaker turned up all the way and have a computery device as an alarm clock. Of course, I do have the laptop going as well, which also has an alarm. But for the most part, it only takes the smartphone in order to wake me up. Now this LG was starting to bulge, the whole phone was bulging, and it was about to rip itself apart from this battery. So that's when I bought the replacement, which has now started to bulge. So I'm going to compare the LG battery in here that I swapped from one of these broken phones. I have two LG, and that's the Blade Spark. I have two LG Phoenix 4s. One of them is brand new, but with a broken screen, and one of them is very, very used, but with a screen that's still in one piece. I've been meaning to swap the screens on these things for the longest time, but I think what I'm going to do is every device I have. Here's my last tablet before I switch to regular smartphones, the ASUS. Today there's chunky phones that are almost as big as this thing, so maybe I'm behind the curve on this. And then there's my original Kindle from 2012, an e-ink device, so we'll have to see what the battery's like. What I want to do is take everything, including my current phone, Moto G7 Play, another cheapo Walmart special. I want to see how swollen the batteries are in these things, so we're going to grab putty knives, take them apart. Most of these do not have user replaceable batteries. Only the LG Phoenixes do. So we'll take a look at these and see how much we're getting screwed by the little ticking time bomb of swelling lithium batteries, which as far as I'm concerned is the new capacitor plague. Alright, this isn't so bad, but I decided just to show you folks what I'm talking about. I put the Bulger back in the Phoenix 3. Now if we hold it flat, we can see the curve right there. And of course, we put the phone down flat on its screen. It doesn't do anything if we tap it. But if you're bulging, it's going to wiggle a little. It's going to be like Jell-O because it's not flat on the bottom anymore. So I noticed this. I picked up. I was like, this has a bulge in it. I'll bet the battery's bulging. Sure enough, it was. And if I let it continue, it'd keep bulging further and further until the covers started coming off. I discharged that bulging battery several months ago. So it is as dead can be by now. But, yeah, so basically what we have here, the LG, so here's the thing, this was the battery in the busted Phoenix 4 that I wasn't using. That's why a battery from 2018 has no bulging on it whatsoever, and this one, unfortunately, from 2022 is further along in the bulge cycle than this one is. I don't know if we want to call it the Battle of the Bulge, because I've heard that used to refer to a lot of other things besides the Battle of the Bulge itself, a World War II battle. Like, oh, I'm fat, I'm up against the Battle of the Bulge. Well, I think we could start using Battle of the Bulge to refer to crap-ass lithium batteries that artificially shorten the lifespan of mobile devices, because a bulging battery is not only going to have less capacity if it works properly, but it's also a fire hazard. So, no. Alright, let's take the Bulger out of the Phoenix 3, and let's see how dead this other thing is. Or maybe just charge it. I don't know. I really don't know what I'm going to do. I think the best battery to use is this old one. We'll cycle it until it starts bulging, and then we'll revisit this horrendous third-party knockoff from 2022 that started bulging way, way, way too soon. The bulging battery is out again. It's from August of 2018 versus, anyways, let me show you. Here's the Phoenix 3. It's got the flat battery back in it. You can tap it and nothing happens. You can tap it and nothing happens. Doesn't stay wiggling. Doesn't stay wiggling because it's actually flat on the bottom because the battery's not bulging. So, I don't know, we can call it the tap test or something like that. Well, that's the Phoenix 3. Let's move on to some other devices. Unfortunately, beginning with my current smartphone, the G7 Play, do I need to shop for another battery or try to find something else? Because the battery in this thing has been, unfortunately, the battery in this thing started to deteriorate after a couple of years. So we'll see if the battery's starting to bulge as well. That's one of the other things that happened with this, too, is with the Bulger, is that I noticed that the battery life between cycles was starting to really drop. Some of that is safety stuff, but I don't want a fire hazard in these things. Lithium batteries have been setting laptops on fire at least once a decade since the 90s. I remember when lithium ion took over from nickel metal hydride in the 90s, one of the first things that happened, laptop fires. Then there were laptop fires in the 2000s, laptop fires in the 2010s. There was even a problem with Samsung Galaxy phones catching on fire. So just lithium batteries in general, I mean, we're jamming so much energy into something this size. Eventually, we have to deal with the fact that the laws of physics are totally not on our side. And we have to learn how to be safe with these things and properly maintain them. What a bloody joke. You want to know why guys like me support right to repair? This is pitiful. Literally, the back of this Motorola phone was attached with double-sided tape. Glue-ish, tape-ish type stuff. Obviously, with no actual mechanical whatever it is, because they don't want people coming in here. Well, too bad, I did. with a razor blade and this guitar pick thing that's in most electronics repair kits, I managed to pry this open. That's why they say warm up the back of your phone so it loosens the glue, because nothing holds the back on anymore, because they're like, just throw it out when you're done with it. Fortunately, it looks like the battery is, it's got a bag around it or something, so, but I don't see any bulging or anything. It is losing service life. I don't know if we get that out or not. I don't think it's going to fold up or anything. And I'd like to keep using this phone until the battery starts getting really ridiculous. But let's take a look anyways. Won't budge. Okay, well, we'll use what's left of the adhesive to press it back together and reinsert the SIM tray and everything and just keep it. Well, this is one of the reasons why I keep these things inside of wallet cases. I guess I have another reason to keep buying wallet cases for all my phones, because as phones get cheaper and companies get stingier about right-to-repair type stuff, we're going to see glued-on phone backs and other crap like that. What if the glue just came out without me trying to pry it open? You know, it's like you go along and suddenly the back of your phone falls off. Like, just give it up, electronics companies. There are nerds out there, and we like actually taking care of our stuff. Whatever. Glued together phones. Blech. Well, to Valhalla with this thing.
Epic fail.
And here's my original phone from 2017, the ZTE Blade Spark, now a banned brand in the United States because they're like, oh, the Chinese government's going to spy on us with their phones. I think ZTE and Huawei were banned or something like that. It has a more traditional cover with more snaps on it. Although I did take another look at the Moto G7's cover. It does have snaps, but it has less of them. It's more reliant on the tape type stuff here. Let's take a look at this battery. Well, that's pretty flat. Not bad for a battery that has all those years on it. Let's charge it back up and actually start using it again. Okay, so the two Phoenix 4s don't have batteries in them because I've just been meaning to transfer the screen from the one that has the worn out power port to the one that has the busted screen, and then finally get a chance to use this phone for something after all these years, and then recycle this one. But I'm going to I should probably also mention with the Phoenix 3 that I use as an alarm clock, one of the ways I first noticed, I kind of forgot the details because it's been a while. One of the ways I first noticed that the battery was bulging in this thing was that there was no longer a seam with the case. So you press it into the case and there's basically no room for a bulging battery. So one of the things you can do is get a wallet case, and then you'll see your phone start to bulge out of it when the battery starts to have bulging issues. Either way, let's put this thing back to its usual duties as an alarm clock. Let's move on to this ASUS tablet over here. This ASUS tablet is an old ZenPad from the middle of the 2010s. I used to bring these in as phones and use them as phones because I didn't want to mess with a SIM card and all the other stuff. And I even tried making calls on Wi-Fi on these things at one point. But this thing died on me and it wouldn't turn on, so I gotta see if maybe the power button's no good or if the whole thing just conked out. It wasn't all that great anyways. Even the first smartphone I got was a big speed upgrade compared to this thing. So this thing's probably going to get recycled, but let's just make sure before we do. The battery in this thing is from 2016. No bulging. So maybe it's something that's been happening more in recent years, because I was never all that great with batteries on these things in terms of actually letting them cycle and stuff. Let's give it a little bit of power with a micro USB and see if we can get it to turn on via the power switch, and maybe it's the power button that's no good. Nah, dead. This thing will get recycled then, and I'm pretty much done with tablets unless I want to buy a big 10-inch one to use as a digital clipboard or something like that. But The 7-inch tablets in lieu of smartphone era for me is very much over at this point. This thing was so power inefficient back in its day, you could sit there watching the battery drain while you used it. Just like, non-iPad tablets just really had some serious problems in their early years. But, we'll save that for some other day in terms of discussions. To the recycling pile with it. And last but not least, we have my Amazon Kindle, the oldest technically mobile device that I have, even though it's an e-ink device. It was just made for reading books. So old, it's not a backlit Kindle, and there's yellowing on the plastic on the back cover. But the back cover comes off with plastic tabs like any other normal device that isn't held together mostly by tape. Although I think the tape that we found in the Moto phone is part of the waterproofing. Either way, this thing is from 2012. It is basically, it should be dead at this point considering the lifespans of lithium batteries, but it's actually lithium polymer, and it is 100% flat. All these years later, 100% flat, no swelling. Meanwhile, I know LG got out of the phone business, but this, and then I try and replace it, sucks, man. Why is it the wrong stuff lasts long? Well, I think this is a pretty good example of why right to repair is so incredibly important. You know, you spend whatever you spend on a device, it's basically serving the purpose of a computer. It should have the computer's lifespan, essentially. I mean, unless you break it, drop it, whatever, cook it, I don't know, but, you know, let people actually enjoy their devices. Plus, everything that goes to the landfill or to a recycling facility, you know, you're talking about emissions, you're talking about climate change, you're talking about e-waste, you're talking about crap. You know, it's better that we just have people use what they have and not be replacing phones on a whim or whatever. I mean, even stuff like taking my first ever processor, this AMD Athlon from 2000, and turning it into basically a conversation piece at a tech setup like this. Like, it's just, you know, whatever happened to actually getting your money's worth out of stuff? And instead of, oh, just throw it away when you're done with it. Like, you spent all that money, used all those resources, and barfed all those greenhouse gases for people to just throw away something? Come on. This is wild. This is absolutely wild. Seriously. 10 plus years old, e-ink display, old Kindle, even got dinged when something hit the screen one time, so still working. Still working, no bulging on the battery. And then the original smartphone from 2017, no bulging on the battery. So it looks like this was mostly a problem with this LG battery then. So I've had bulging problems with LG batteries, and of course my original SanDisk Sansa infamously had an incredibly bulging battery as well, but I guess that really is the new capacitor plague these days, and it's just not an inevitable thing that every battery is going to bulge. We've looked at several batteries that have been losing service life, and they've been aging a lot more gracefully than the Bulger did. So maybe it's just a once-in-a-while thing or something along those lines. Alright, that's cool. I'm going to charge up the e-reader. Maybe I could find some use for it or put something on it that I want to read again. I don't even think this has Wi-Fi. Of course, the original smartphone is good for a home phone, so that when my main phone is charging or out of the room, I can have something near the computer that can ring or something along those lines. It has terrible battery life anyways, because lithium batteries start losing service life the minute they leave the factory. There is no way to store them. It's one of the unfortunate side effects of the technology. I'll save the smartphone screen swap for later and get this Bulger ready to be recycled. It's probably dead as a doornail now anyway, so next available recycling date for the town on the weekends is a couple of weeks from now, so I'll see what else I can get done before then as we head towards August. Oh yeah, lithium batteries, man. Swelling batteries is the new capacitor plague. The question is, which of your devices is it going to affect? Definitely keep on the lookout for it. And most notably, look for the change in the shape of your device to indicate that that's going on. That's really the easiest way to find that out, instead of finding out, oh yeah, the back of my phone's mostly glued on or something like that. Plus there's the water resistance as well. You take out the material that these things use to resist water up to a certain amount of feet, then it'll just be that easier to cook the device if you drop it in water anyways, or it gets rained on, or I don't know. Never actually had a device suffer any water damage, so I can't really speak to that. But it's cool to see some of these older devices still able to actually hold a charge, even if it's crap. I've usually never gotten more than like 6 years out of your average laptop battery. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay signing off. Thanks for stopping by.